The continuation will most likely be out on my boosty. Let's get started. In a sandy place, a porter is fighting for his life against a lower-level mob, barely managing to win by striking from within. When the monster falls, the porter stands up, catching his breath, happy that he can finally use his strength to defeat the monster. Then he is called, as he needs to do his job and collect drops from the mobs since he is a porter. There's nothing to be done about it, and he apologizes profusely. The awakened one calls him a useless, non-awakened trash. The world completely changed after the abyss was discovered deep within. Essentially, it's another dimension where monsters that exist only in fantasy stories are found. Awakened people also began to appear, and thanks to their powers, they could explore the abyss and defeat the monsters inside. Because of this, the standards for evaluating someone no longer depended on how much work they did or how hard they worked. Everything depended on the rank of their awakening. If their awakening rank was high enough, they were almost guaranteed a good life. However, this did not apply to him. He is a porter who only carries loads for the awakened and is not awakened himself. At 35 years old, he still hasn't opened his status window. If he doesn't awaken, he will never be able to live a comfortable life. He turns to say he has gathered everything, but what he sees shocks him. All the awakened have died a terrible death. As he tries to back away, he bumps into something or someone who says, "It looks like only one is left." It's a monster of SSS rank named Asmodeus. Desperate, the porter tries to protect himself with his weak knife, but Asmodeus destroys his arm with one move, making him fall and scream in pain. Even so, he doesn't give up. The porter's mind fills with despair due to Asmodeus's power, sinking deeper and deeper until he dies. He wonders if this is really the end. His parents tragically died in a car accident. He was constantly bullied at school, and he lived his life alone and miserable just because he wasn't awakened. Even now, in his last moments, he still wants to awaken. As his blood drips onto the ground, one drop turns into light of various colors, and the porter is transported to another dimension as the conditions for awakening were met. The porter notices a staircase descending, with a mystical being coming down it. He tries to make sense of everything, and when he looks back, he sees Asmodeus frozen in time. The being is surprised that he is still focused on Asmodeus after everything that happened, leading the porter to ask who he is. The being responds that it has no specific name, but some call it the king. It reassures the porter not to worry about it, as it graciously grants him power. At this moment, the porter loses his thoughts. King? Power? What is this being talking about? The king, as if reading his thoughts, says he needs to be wary. The reason the king chose him is because it admires his will and perseverance, even in his final moments. He desired more. However, the porter should see this as a one-time event, as such a miracle won't happen again. The porter still doesn't understand what's going on and tries to ask the king, but it says he will have to be patient, as the moment when he will understand will come. The king hands him a precious key. As the light flashes on the porter's face, he awakens in another place where some people call him crazy for ignoring them. One of them slaps him, bringing him to his senses. He faces a person he never wanted to see again, Huku. Huku asks what he is doing there, making his life a living hell. Huku continues to beat him and asks why he isn't responding. Then, the porter remembers what the king said about power and opens his status window, something he had never seen before. He also notices that he is 19 years old, which means he has gone back 16 years. If this is true and not a hallucination, it means what the king did worked. He starts laughing loudly, making Huku ask if he has lost his mind. When Huku asks if he wants more beatings, he is met with a furious punch that sends him flying back in tears. The porter officially declares that he is now awakened, wiping the tears from his face. Huku's goons start attacking him, trying to teach him a lesson. One of them attempts to punch him directly in the face, but the porter dodges and uppercuts him. Another, who tries to use ice magic, gets knocked out by a kick. Over the 35 years he lived as a non-awakened, he did everything he could to survive, from physical training and techniques to all known information about the abyss. He even mastered all interpersonal combat skills. There is no way he will lose to these weaklings who don't even know the basic fighting techniques. He defeats them again with his skills, but this time they fall for good. Standing over them, he realizes that he will have to reconsider his physical training program if he wants to build a combat-ready body. Huku regains consciousness and thinks this is nonsense, that the porter just got lucky. He attacks the main character again using the stone skin skill, which strengthens the body. He tries to punch the porter with his stone fist. This attack is also harder to dodge, as the speed of movement increases with the skill. Dodging another attack, the porter is caught off guard when Huku jumps high and tries to crush him with an attack that could likely kill him. As the dust clears, the porter tries to strike from behind, but Huku notices and turns around. With the stone skin skill on his face, he completely blocks the porter's attack. The porter tries to defend against the counterattack, but even blocking it, he is sent flying. He still holds on and remains conscious. Huku taunts the porter, saying he shouldn't have behaved like that, and now he has awakened too late. What will he do now? Run away or maybe try to fight with his awakened skill, if he even has one? All awakened possess skills and ranks, starting from F rank, which is basically comparable to an ordinary person, to S rank, which grants monstrous abilities. Unfortunately, the mysterious skill the porter has is unknown to Huku. He has never heard of it before, even with all his knowledge. But what's worse is that the porter is of F rank, with no chance of winning against Huku, who has a rank skill. Nevertheless, for some strange reason, the porter doesn't feel like he will ever lose again. Activating his skill, his red aura begins to emanate into the world. Huku is frightened, as he can't believe that this worthless person has truly awakened. The porter feels his body coming to life and can sense the magic. It's the power of devouring. The porter attacks again, this time with a much fiercer strike, as he wants to win with one blow to avoid risking his life. Just before his attack reaches the porter, Huku extends his hand forward, and a strange dark creature appears above him, slowly devouring Huku's stone skin. Eventually, it completely consumes his skill. As the stones fall from Huku's body, the whole class continues as usual, as if nothing happened. But at that moment, the sky turns a blood-red hue due to the porter's skill. After the dust settles, the result is clear. Huku is completely defeated, lying on the ground. As a result of the successful battle, the porter's rank changes to E, and he also gains the stone skin skill that belonged to Huku. Taehyung decided to drag all the guys he had beaten back to the school infirmary. The nurse was shocked to see that all of them had serious injuries. After the fight, Hen took care of his own wounds. Naturally, he didn't tell the nurse the truth about how the guys got hurt. He explained that they fell down the stairs, which of course puzzled her. But she decided not to pay attention since it probably wasn't her responsibility. After resting, he went home, thinking to himself that it was good because he could take revenge on his past offender and awaken at the same time. What a pleasure. However, there's one problem: the growth of his wound, which he could barely alter after many years of training, increased after one fight. The skill might be of F rank, but it is undoubtedly more powerful than an F rank skill and can even steal the skills of the opponents he defeats. But why did this king grant him such power, and more importantly, why did he force his regression? He has countless questions that need answers, but the most important thing now is to learn more about the devourer and how it works. He returns home, which makes him smile because, after his parents' death, he lived with his uncle for some time, who warmly welcomed him into his family. Upon entering, he thinks that his uncle will return late from work, so he should start researching, but his thoughts are interrupted by the situation. He sees 3 bullies and his uncle's nephew, January. He wants to ask him why he isn't in school, but from afar, he notices that Jan is rummaging through his father's money. Even before his regression, he still remembers the times when this kid wanted to have fun with other bullies and took all the money from the house to have fun with them. This caused a big commotion. Just think, it happened today of all days. One of the bullies stands up, surprised to see his cousin, Jan, so early, but why not just go for a walk? And clearly, He doesn't interfere with it. They just take what they came for and leave. Therefore, he should act like a good non-awakened person and leave. Taehyung just looks at him but then smiles because this is a great opportunity for him to try something new. He suddenly punches the bully in the face, knocking him off his feet, which greatly surprises the others. After this, Tan moves on, using the devourer, which scares the bully boss. But when he tries to activate the skill, a notification appears in front of him that the skill is unavailable. The bully is confused about what the hell he is doing. He is furious as he can't believe the devourer didn't work. The boss orders the remaining bullies to act, and they attack him with a barrage of abilities. One causes paralysis, another causes poison, and the third causes bleeding. These three statuses target Han, who can't hope to react as they simultaneously fill the entire building with light. After this, the bully boss asks how he dared to deceive them, pretending to be an awakened. He brought this upon himself. What a fool. Unfortunately, this is not the end, as the use of their skills was detected by the devourer, which confirms the use of all status effects and resists them thanks to its mysterious power. Our main hero laughs, thinking to himself that at first, it didn't work, and then it neutralized all the effects. How interesting. The boss doesn't even have time to understand what's happening before Han instantly covers his fist with stone skin and punches with all his might, so hard that this attack breaks the floor. Having dealt with the bullies, he now learns he can use the status window even better than before, which shows the general information about the corresponding awakened. But not all information is displayed. Firstly, his mana was not lacking at all, but the devourer didn't work. So, besides the normal description, there must be other factors that allow the ability to be used. In addition to that, apparently, because he resists and neutralizes skills related to abnormal conditions, like what happened to him earlier, he will have to test all this in practice to verify if it is true. But the most important thing now is to take care of something else. He asks his cousin, who witnessed the situation, and at that moment he speaks slowly, impressed by such an impressive sight. He was deeply moved and reflected on his actions, now humbly begging for his forgiveness like a dog or a cat. He will do whatever Han wants. Our main hero is surprised. He knew this guy was a fox, but he knew this long ago. Today it's not a problem since there is another incident that will happen today, something much bigger. He forgives his cousin, who is very happy, but under one condition: they must go together to do something at the warehouse, which has now become a restricted area. 3 Awakened people look at the abyss gate that collapsed, and now crowds of monsters are pouring out from there. This phenomenon occurs when monsters appear as soon as the path to the abyss opens. If everything is left unattended for too long, as it happened now, the gate will collapse. A man says that it has been 10 years since the last dungeon collapse, but these gates were created and collapsed simultaneously, which is very strange. Dean notes about the monsters that if they do nothing, the monsters will keep pouring out and eventually overwhelm them. A red-haired woman asks if they should evacuate the area, but the man tells her that it's okay since they have his barrier skill, which is B rank. Besides, it's just a small marine gate, which means that the strongest monster that will come out of it will only be C rank. Even if they break through, they are more than enough to handle this raid since they are awakened B ranks. Han runs through the city, explaining the situation to his cousin, thinking that everything should be fine since the control personnel is already there to save the situation. The cousin calls Han "Sir" after every sentence, which makes Han laugh. The gate collapse is estimated to be about C rank, so with the control personnel, who have B rank, there should be no problem, and this incident will pass without casualties. The cousin notes that this is exactly what he said, but Taehyung says that's only if the dungeon is indeed C rank. Meanwhile, the control personnel are dealing with the monsters coming out of the gate, but the man thinks it's strange since weak monsters like these shouldn't have broken his barrier so easily. That's when he thinks that maybe the mana coming from underground might actually be of a higher rank. The woman calls him as something big is coming out of the gate, and indeed a huge monster emerges and, with one blow, completely destroys the barrier. A giant ogre of A rank laughs, knowing that weaklings will lose their lives. The man can only be amazed after the sudden explosion. Jan asks Taechin how he could have known about this since there are no monsters around and the government did not give an evacuation order. He can't tell him that he returned. He tells him it was just intuition. The cousin doesn't understand how to respond to this. But then they approach the road where people are running from monsters. He declares that the gate is broken. The cousin doesn't even know what to say since nothing indicated that this would happen. Our main hero tells him to do what they talked about since he has other plans for these freaks. At this time, in a skyscraper, a man tells someone that the situation is out of control since the gate they thought would be C rank actually turned out to be A rank, and these gates, unfortunately, broke through. Help is impossible as the other awakened are busy exploring the abyss. So, the only solution is the appearance of an awakened SS rank, their only hope for survival. Therefore, he asks for help from the Blade of Madness. Help us, and Hans, with tears in his eyes, tells everyone to hold on since the hero named Hans will come and save them. This guy has a Chunibya syndrome.
On the street, Tana easily copes with low-rank monsters who turn out to be easy prey. He also uses the Devourer on them, which absorbs their bodies in the blink of an eye, as he expected. The reason why the Devourer did not work earlier was due to fatigue. Since if it exceeds 70%, the skill is not activated. Most skills do not rely on fatigue and work only at the expense of Ma, but even so, fatigue is an important indicator that needs to be monitored. The more fatigue becomes, the lower the power becomes, and the heavier the body becomes. Of course, it is inconvenient to monitor so many things, but there is one thing: if absorbs dead monsters, he can restore mana. As he absorbs the body of slain monsters, his skill rank also increases and becomes stronger. With this constant growth, he may even be capable of becoming an SS rank or even higher than this. Is the first SS rank that has ever existed since after he freed himself from the monsters. Having finished with this, our main character thinks that he should return to his cousin and see what the situation is like there. Well, an unexpected turn knocks him out of his thoughts. He sees that right next to him someone is fighting with a red OGM while shouting out what this dirty monster will pay for the murder of our people, and on this day the great warrior Ankin Su will pronounce a sentence on you. He will cut it into many small pieces and also create a strong response. Nomitan is surprised at how easily he won this monster. This means that this is the same awakened one who decided the situation with the destruction of the gate before he regresses the link of madness. Hen. He is as populated as he is stupid, and how long does he act like this? They play a superhero in some action movie. Why is he here before Henry? Aggressive, a fierce battle with a giant ogre that was on the other side of the city when NSU prays for the dead civilians with the hope that they will find peace in the afterlife. Hina's skill is activated because he sensed the use of another skill, and indeed someone appears from behind. Hens and stabs him straight in the chest. It turns out to be a mad fanatic obsessed with battles who is happy that he finally caught the famous Hens. Meanwhile, his cousin is keeping an eye on the school nurse who is lying unconscious. He doubts whether everything is okay, but remembering that the then told him that a lot of people will die tonight and one of them will be their school nurse Neon because she will be focused to save other people. Ani is on evacuation to save himself. Hin knows that Kozan can put people to sleep using his skill. Therefore, he should put her to sleep and drag her to a safe place since he will take over everything else. He can only be surprised somehow Hen knows all this, but after some thinking, he comes to the conclusion, surely this explains everything. There is no other explanation. Yu Hyung actually sees into the future. He awakened with this skill. This is so cool, and how much he knows, so much. Nothing can go wrong in this regard. Yes, I think that the situation is very strange because this has never happened before. Hang Su demands to identify the person who hit him in the chest, but he doesn't answer. He's just surprised that the Born survived after his blow because he hit a critical place. Really awakened RNG. Hey, this is a completely different breed. However, this will make his hunt much more interesting because he likes those who resist. This is a villain of the rank of Han Sando. Awakened ones who commit crimes using their abilities are called villains, and this one in particular is a maniac who, during the destruction of the gate, wandered everywhere and killed for his own pleasure. But I'm sure that he should not exist here. Has the future changed because of his actions? Su calls him an evil bastard whom he righteously intends to destroy with his own hands when he tries to carry out his attack. The monster under him comes out, which confuses both of them. They manage to dodge the ogre's attack. Sonda notes that regeneration is truly amazing as expected from a beast of rank. Ogre hits the ground separating them, but Sonda still isn't going to fight him as he points it at Henson here as he notices Hyun, and he immediately heads towards him, considering him an easy target in response, and Hin activates the skill stone skin and answers him that idiot Sonda did not expect that HN was able to resist, and this surprise allows our protagonist to counterattack. At this moment, Sonda realizes that Hen is awakened, but then HN dropped out all the information about the maniac standing in front of him and his science of secrecy that he kill, and notices that it's great that they met. After that, an exchange of blows begins, as a result of which strong gusts of wind disperse. Sonda laughs because it seems to him that he is experienced enough to easily defeat Henna, who would have thought that Mish is completely useless against you, so he decides to use stealth and completely disappears from view. X on the main character will remain no. He can still hit him. Hyung tries to strike where he feels Sonda's presence but misses. The maniac attacks immediately after him, but to Hyun's surprise this time it's the maniac's Ko that inflicts damage on him. Sonda starts laughing because he hunted many awakens is on him, those who make a mistake just because they think themselves invincible. Now that his weakness is revealed, he must understand that he will eventually die, but before dying he must remember that all skills have their drawback. He attacks again Henna, who did not expect that the skin of the stone will have such a disadvantage skill. In fact, he attacks how much the blow breaks the stone, and the crushed part is replaced by the formation of a lower quality stone that breaks easily. This killer was always counting on this. At that moment they think to themselves that this is not so bad. Now he is confident that he can withstand a fight against an awakened rank, since his physical abilities are quite high, and at this point he believes that it is time to finish with the test. Sonda laughs at this, that this guy must be going crazy with despair. Hin asks if he knows why he wanted them to meet, but Sonda doesn't hear. Consider it just chatter until he releases the predator and says that he wanted his skill. Sonda can't believe how such evil mana can exist. This bastard has been hiding it all this time. However, even with this skill, he won't be able to do anything if he doesn't see it. Thane says that he told him that all skills have a weakness, and that includes his. He of course understood after eating monsters. Yes, among the monsters, many of them escaped his sight, but not a single one of the monsters could escape from the predator. He hunted them mercilessly, so now no, it doesn't matter where he is, just like the predator has already caught his scent. Sonda can only scream when the skill touches him and tears him into pieces and takes his skill for himself. The morning finally comes, but not for everyone. It is joyful at this time. Su lies in front of the giant, defeated and waits of his death. He could have done something, but it seems even the invincible warrior cannot evade death. A giant ogre is approaching him, ready to take his life, but when he hits the ground, Hens is no longer there, since you are Hin, using his invisibility skill, saves him. And when everything finally ends, Hin and John return home where their uncle and aunt are waiting for them, who are very happy to see them both in health because they thought that something bad happened, because when they came home everything was turned upside down. But Jane assures them that nothing significant happened, on which Tak cannot confirm this but also refute it. It also becomes known in the news that from the moment the warning about the danger of breaking the gate was lifted, the government closed the school for a week, as there is a possibility of subsequent outbreaks. Relatives and spouses breathed a sigh of relief. Chiv news about survivors born managed to survive in this nightmare is still in the hospital, and the school nurse tells the police how she suddenly ended up in this place. Ends surrounded by the attention of reporters, announces that he didn't kill the giant ogre. The real hero is someone else who has a true heart despite this good news. The corpse, wow, still no trace of the villain who was reported to have attacked the public is still unknown. This people are worried that the government's security measures may not be sufficient. Hin watches all this on his phone, and since he heard enough finishes watching the news. He did it because wanted to know if there was any information about him, but there is none, so he is happy. But now it's time for him to move to the next level. He opens the stats window, which shows that he now has 3 skills. One of them is stealth, which was really useful. But with his current powers, it is difficult for him to use all 3 sciences at the same time. If he attacks recklessly, then he will spend all his mana in no time. If he also receives the effect of the fatigue status, his life may also end. The best measure that can be taken against this are potions that can restore both mana and fatigue respectively. However, they're not so easy to get because they are quite rare and cost a lot of money, so he has to hunt to earn that money. But there is one thing, to hunt in dungeons you need to have a legal hunting permit. Even to use knacks you need a permit, otherwise it is considered illegal. Because of this, the only way out is to clear the unexplored dungeon. When he goes into the dungeon, the Spider Sisters Byron wonder how a humble man found them, how many of their logos were pretty well hidden, but no matter how he found them, they paralyze him with poison and get enough of his blood. Hin is surprised that they are smart enough to speak, but they are only of no rank. That is not enough for him to change his rank. With just a few, he needs to eat hundreds. The sisters thought that this man is not aware of the situation he was in. Unison, they spit balls of web at him to immobilize him, but when the attack hits Henna, he just smiles. And how much web is this affect the predator? has developed all the negative effects imposed on him. They are surprised the next moment the predator deals with them. Their creepy burning passage into the dungeon henna absorbs them and gets a new skill paralysis in the new association of players of South Korea. Some pretty important people are having a meeting behind closed doors with the deputy manager of South Korea players Goth and Wook. He cannot imagine that when meeting with two of the best players in the association this semester, the player is essentially an awakened player who is legally allowed to use his skills for various purposes, such as exploring the abyss, clearing dungeons, and so on. Currently time there are 5 gaming centers of the new Association of Players of South Korea, the largest Korean gaities, 4 great Guidus fighters, indivisible masters, alchemists, magic wizards, informants, night walkers, and an authorized agency managing the players, including the 4 great Guidus, the new Association of Players of South Korea. And right in front of him sit 2 wonderful players, Master Gilly of the Night Vagabonds, and a player with the rank chairman of the new Players Association of South Korea. He asks the girl if she learned anything about the Giddy of Villains. Glaya Villains is a criminal organization of glory created by the most cruel villains. Members of the Giddy note golden rings with red skulls denoting tribute. She hands him the documents containing information about the movements of this guide, as well as a list of players they are targeting. But she is sure that he did not call her just for the sake of this document. So what did he really need? He chuckles and says that in fact he is asking her a question. When did she pass test on the player? A little embarrassed she of course when she reached the qualifying age of 19, and the chairman just don't say at this moment. The chairman grinned and asked, can a high school student fight a monster? At this moment Fian, who defeated everyone in this unknown dungeon, now has a backpack full of precious stones. He's calling the alchemists because he wants to buy some potions from them. Well,
order to close the 7-day school came to an end in the days when he acted. Hin was engaged in physical training, defending the dungeon, and of course purchasing a potion from the alchemist guide. When he first brought them a batch of stones, they were shocked by the huge number of them, and immediately began to treat him like a Persian. So in this way he was able to get a lot of Zais. Besides all this, his stats also increased a little, but his rank is still with him. He has a long way to go, but unfortunately he still needs to go to school. There are rumors about him at school that he recently awakened, but that's not the most important thing. Alone from Anoklasniki says that he has huge problems due to the fact that he knocked KSU and his guys half to death, which means that this person Lee Gen Jae will definitely appear, and just at that moment he enters the class. The reason why they are so afraid of him is the fact that he is awakened from the rank, and he is also the child of the San Gru in the 3rd generation who sponsors this school, and on top of everything else he is the boss of all the hooligans here. He is the same bastard who ordered the KSU to mock him because he was not awakened. Lin says, no, long time no see buddy. HN asks again that I'm your friend, don't bet, __. Get lost. One of Jeej's henchmen asks how dare he talk to him like that non-crap with his blow, and asks if he's blind. Didn't he see that they had a damn conversation? And after which he turns to Taeyong. They say that he understands that he can think that he is strong and came out of the mud because he defeated Hiksu. However, he should be more careful since he is clearly not at the level to talk to him like that. Hin feels the increasingly burning mana. What is really surprising but only makes him think what will happen if this ability meets with a predator. Before Hin uses his ability, a classmate walks and stops J&J. This girl's name is Mayeon. She also says that Kim Hin also graduated. She also has a lot of titles: prefect, rich girl, stepsister, Yeon, awakened from the class, exemplary student, the most promising nobility guys, future player of SSS rank, has not so many nicknames and will have even more. But there is one problem with her, and it is that she does not compromise at all and never gives in. She tells her that there should be no, because she understood that the 2 awakened ones were just talking. It was just a conversation between friends. She asks her friends in surprise. She notices that there was nothing friendly in what she saw, because he just hit, and watches the tone. How much? She said enough. To which she answers him, what if he goes on his own? Then she will help him leave. So he must give up everything. And even now, while she is still in a good mood, he thinks to himself that if this continues, the whole class will turn into a mixture of yes and flame. But after Jen J or Mayeon are thrown on each other's death glares, Jinji decides to leave since he's not going to fight in this place anyway. It was a trick. At the same time, he turns around and tries to attack Lee Mayeon, noting that he won't allow himself to be treated so disrespectfully. Before his ability reaches its target, he is interrupted by the school speaker starting to speak. There is a special announcement from the club broadcast. The Players Association has organized a special lecture in the main hall, so all the students are expected to come there immediately. As Toko Jie he heard this, he rethinks his actions and looks at Lyman, who is still ready to fight. He smiles and leaves, says that they are definitely lucky. He loudly slams the door behind him. Does Mayan turn to Hena and ask if they sat down with something out of order? He's already there, and there's no sign of him. When he's standing in front of the door, he notes that they should go too. How long are we talking about here? Players Association. Lyman knocked down the table. KO. Has he always been like this? In the main hall, the students wonder why the Players Association is here, and some assume that it is because of the quarry. In the end, the lecture begins with the GC first introducing himself. He says that today he is here for 2 reasons. Of them, sorry for the lack of response to the breakthrough of the gate, since they reacted quickly enough, and the Sekonto inform about changes in the selection of players for those of them who have awakened and will become the future of this country. Jan Seka is angry with Hena. Ali Man thinks that later it will be necessary to find out Kimon in this moment of carefree yawns. That's all for today. If you want a continuation as soon as possible, like and subscribe to the channel. Well, Kirill was with you. If you want to see the continuation, it's already on Boost. See you soon.